Forget that feeling. Like, big tech's always listening in. And not just, passively listening, but actually analyzing every click, every post.
It's like they know us better than we know ourselves sometimes.
Right. And that's exactly the rabbit hole we're diving into today.
Yeah.
You guys sent in some seriously thought-provoking articles and podcast clips about Peter Thiel and Elon Musk. And let me tell you, this is going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, Thiel and Musk, talk about a paradox, right? On one hand, they're waving that libertarian flag, all about individual freedom, minimal government interference. But then you look at their companies, Palantir and X, formerly Twitter.
And it's like, hold on a sec, are we talking about the same guys? So just a quick recap for anyone who needs it. Peter Thiel, early investor in Facebook, the brains behind Palantir, made his fortune by basically ripping up the Silicon Valley playbook. And Elon Musk, the driving force behind Tesla, SpaceX, and now X, always pushing boundaries, but are those boundaries ethical when it comes to our data?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Take Palantir, for example. They specialize in data analytics, which on the surface sounds pretty harmless, right? But we're talking about software that's used by government agencies, law enforcement. This is serious surveillance power.
Yet one of the articles you sent actually used the phrase web of associational suspicion to describe how Palantir's tech connects the dots. Kind of sends shivers down your spine, right?
It's like, imagine the software analyzing massive data sets, piecing together your online activity, where you go, who you're connected to, all to predict your next move.
It's like Minority Report, but in real life. And the thing is, this isn't just some dystopian sci-fi scenario.
Right, it's happening right now.
There was actually a case in Germany where a court put the brakes on Palantir. It said their software violated privacy rights.
Yeah, that was a landmark case. Really makes you think twice about the trade-offs we're making in the name of security. Where do you draw the line between protecting citizens and eroding their right to privacy? It's a debate that's raging worldwide.
No easy answers there. And speaking of blurred lines, let's talk about Elon Musk and his whole free speech absolutist vision for X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. Remember how he promised it would be this bastion of free speech?
It's funny how that works out, though, isn't it? Because we see all these examples that seem to contradict that very idea.
Oh, absolutely. Case in point. Rocco Rodriguez, the host of the local 666-269 podcast, he claims Musk blocked him on Twitter simply for asking some tough questions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, sounds a little ironic, doesn't it? Like someone's idea of free speech has its limits.
Well, it really makes you question, right? Like, can you truly champion free speech while simultaneously silencing dissenting voices? Because that kind of undermines the very foundation of what Musk claims to stand for.
Exactly. And it's not just an isolated incident either. Studies show that despite Musk's promises, misinformation has actually multiplied on X since he took over. So much for creating a more transparent platform, right?
It's like we're seeing a pattern here, wouldn't you say? This disconnect between what's being said and what's actually happening. We saw it with Thiel's Palantir and now with Musk's X. It makes you wonder.
Are they both building systems that prioritize control and profit over individual freedom? Now, this is where things get really interesting because this is where Thiel's writing from decades ago becomes eerily relevant. We're talking about his book, The Diversity Myth. He co-wrote it back in 1995, argued that excessive political correctness on college campuses was stifling intellectual diversity.
Right.
This might seem like a bit of a tangent, but stay with me here. Years before the current debates about online censorship and free speech were even a thing, Thiel was already sounding the alarm about the dangers of suppressing viewpoints he disagreed with. And he's actually put his money where his mouth is, funding alternative education models like the Thiel Fellowship, which encourages young people to skip college and dive straight into entrepreneurship. It's like he's saying, screw the system, let's build our own.
Wow.
Which brings us back to Rocco Rodriguez and his rather, let's say, pessimistic outlook on social media and its impact on society. Rodriguez, he's got this whole Techno-Doomer vibe going on, Like, he's always predicting the downfall of civilization at the hands of our own creations.
Yeah, he's definitely not afraid to paint a bleak picture, that's for sure. But I gotta admit, there's something about his arguments that really gets you thinking.
Right. Like, underneath all the doom and gloom, he's making some pretty thought-provoking points about the potential for social media to amplify, like, all the worst aspects of human nature.
He calls it Sarmageddon, right? Like a social media-fueled apocalypse.
Exactly. And when you really think about it, I mean, when you look at the spread of misinformation, the polarization of opinions, the erosion of trust in institutions, It's not hard to see where he's coming from.
Not at all. It's like we're all trapped in these echo chambers, constantly bombarded with information that confirms our existing biases, and anyone who dares to question the narrative gets shouted down or, worse, silenced.
It's the opposite of a free and open internet, where diverse perspectives are encouraged and healthy debate can actually flourish.
Right, and let's not forget the impact this is all having on our attention spans. We're so addicted to the constant dopamine hit of likes and notifications that we can barely focus on a single thought for more than a few seconds.
It's like we're trading our ability to think critically and engage in meaningful conversations for the fleeting satisfaction of online validation. And all the while, guys like Thiel and Musk are sitting back, watching the chaos unfold and raking in the profits.
Which brings us to a crucial point that I think often gets overlooked in all of this, the role of power. Because they're not just tech entrepreneurs, are they? They're power players, wielding their wealth and influence to shape the world in their image.
It's true. Thiel's support for Donald Trump is well documented, and Musk has become a political force in his own right, even though his endorsements seem to change with the wind.
It's almost as if they've figured out how to game the system, using their platforms to amplify their own voices and silence anyone who challenges their authority.
Which kind of makes you question their commitment to those libertarian ideals, doesn't it? Like, if they truly believe in limited government and individual liberty, why are they so eager to exert their influence on the political process?
That's a good question. A really good question.
It's almost as if they want the freedom to disrupt and innovate without any accountability for the consequences of their actions.
And those consequences are becoming increasingly difficult to ignore, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Their decisions impact everything from, like, the future of work, to the spread of information, to the very fabric of our democracy.
And let's not forget about their investments in artificial intelligence, a technology with the potential to either solve our biggest problems or exacerbate them, depending on who's controlling it.
It's like a high-stakes gamble. And they're betting big on AI being the key to unlocking some kind of utopian future.
But as with many of their other ventures, there's a distinct lack of transparency about their goals and the potential risks involved.
Which brings us back to that fundamental question. Are we really free if our digital lives are controlled by a handful of tech titans with their own agendas and ambitions?
It's a question each of us needs to grapple with because the answer has profound implications for the future of our society.
And it's a question we can't afford to ignore, especially with the 2024 election just around the corner.
Oh, absolutely. The stakes are higher than ever, and we've already seen how Thiel and Musk have used their platforms and resources to, influence the political landscape. Who knows what they might do with even more power and influence?
It's like we're living in a real-life episode of Black Mirror, where the lines between technology, politics, and entertainment have completely blurred.
It's strange, isn't it? Like, we're so bombarded with information, but most people seem completely oblivious to how it's all being manipulated behind the scenes.
Right. They're so caught up in the day-to-day drama, the outrage cycle, that they don't even realize they're being played.
They're too busy arguing about the latest viral tweet to notice the bigger picture, how technology is being used to shape our thoughts, our beliefs, our behaviors. It's really quite insidious when you think about it.
And that's how figures like Thiel and Musk amass so much power, right? Because we become so desensitized to the noise, so overwhelmed by the constant stream of information, that we lose the ability to think critically and question what we're being told.
Exactly. We're told that this is progress, that this is innovation, that this is what freedom looks like in the digital age.
But what if it's not? What if we're sleepwalking towards a future where our lives are controlled by algorithms, where our choices are manipulated by corporations who prioritize profit over people? It's a pretty chilling thought when you really stop and think about it.
It is. It really is.
So what can we do about it? Like, how do we reclaim our digital autonomy and actually build a future that aligns with our values?
Well, I think it starts with awareness, right? We need to educate ourselves and others about the hidden costs of our digital lives, the ways in which our data is being collected and analyzed and monetized without our knowledge or consent.
We need to be more discerning about the information we consume, more critical of the platforms we use, more willing to support alternatives that prioritize privacy and transparency.
Exactly. And I think Most importantly, we need to be wary of anyone who claims to have all the answers. Anyone who promises a utopian future powered by their latest invention.
Lies.
Because, as we've seen with Thiel and Musk, even the best intentions can have unintended consequences. We can't just blindly trust that technology will solve all our problems. We need to be actively involved in shaping how it's developed and used.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners today?
I'd say it's this. Stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay skeptical. Question the narratives you're being told. Challenge the status quo. And don't be afraid to imagine a different kind of future, one where technology serves humanity, not the other way around.
Because the future of our digital lives, and perhaps even our democracy, might depend on it. Well, folks, that was a deep dive I don't think any of us will soon forget. We hope it sparks some much-needed conversations, both online and offline. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning everything.